Hi, welcome to Wine with Chris. It's April, the sun is shining, so we're going to do it outside. Wine with Chris, why am I holding a bottle that looks more like beer or cider? And in fact it is the Curious Brewing Company, Curious Apple, and it is a lovely English cider. And it is from the Curious Brewing Company, but it's actually just been sold to a private equity firm by Chapel Down. So this is effectively Chapel Down cider, when it was made anyway. In future it'll be separate, but I've just bought 24 of those, and they also do, I think, 2 different types of ale. The only reason for putting it on the channel really is what it says on the back. It's a clean aromatic cider using only fully ripe hand-picked Kentish Rubens and Bramley apples. Here's the key: fermented with our Bacchus wine yeast for a premium cider, with hints of green apple, elderflower, citrus and kiwi fruit. So they actually use the Bacchus wine yeast that has been used to ferment the Bacchus wine. Bacchus, one of the German grapes brought over here, does very well in the cool climate in England, and they use the yeast, natural fermented wild yeast, to ferment the apples into cider. So I thought I'd give it a go. I'm not a huge cider connoisseur at all, far from it. But what I like about this one compared to some of the high street ones is that it's got a huge flavour. It's really quite acidic, but there's a sweetness, not on the, you know, it's not inherently sweet, but it tastes sweet, if you know what I mean. Sometimes you'll get that with a Gewurz or a Riesling from the Alsace, where you're thinking, wow, that's sweet, but actually it's very dry. This has that, and it's a great combination. Lovely, obviously, apple flavors, but I am getting a little bit of that elderflower. I really know what they're talking about. And you know, if I'm going to have one of these, I'm going to want it to taste of something rather than just be super dry, cut glass, tasting of nothing. And this one does the trick. So all very well, you might be asking, why is he wasting my time talking about cider? Well, there's a part 2 to this video, and I'll switch over there very shortly, take you a little bit deeper into my burgeoning journey with Chapel Down. But I hope you enjoyed a little bit of a deviation into the world of apples, and if you can get hold of some of this stuff, if you like cider, I would recommend this as a tasty one. Definitely got more flavour than a lot of ciders I've drunk. Chapel Down, let's move on and talk about some of their fine wines. Hi, welcome to the cellar. Not quite sure why I'm whispering, but this feels like a bit of a secret slot that we've got going on in this particular video, and maybe you'll see why. It's a little bit of a discovery that I want to share with you. A few weeks before Christmas, my parents gifted me a lovely book by Oz Clarke on English sparkling wines. He's a great critic and is a great wine author. I can recommend his books thoroughly. But the bit that grabbed me about this particular book was the section on Chapel Down, that great English sparkling wine producer or general wine producer based near Tenterton in the Medway Valley down in Kent. Now, as with so many of the southeast England vineyards, the amazing thing about Chapel Down is the terroir. It sits on the South Downs and has that seam of chalk running through its vineyards, that same seam that leaves Kent, dips under the sea and pops up again nowhere less than the Champagne region itself. It literally has the same terroir as French Champagne. And Chapel Down is already quite a big producer of wine. I don't know the exact statistics, but it has several hundred acres under growth at the minute. And what the amazing thing about the book was that Oz Clarke was taken to the premier plot of Chapel Down, which many of you will know is called Kit's Coty. And this plot is perfect in so many ways. It has that chalk seam, the perspective to the sun is perfect, the degrees of the slope are perfect, the density of the Chardonnay planting is perfect. I think it's about 100 acres, but there's one more special, intriguing little characteristic, which is that in the summer, to keep the vines cool, there is this strange wind that flows up from the bottom of the slope every hour or so and gently cools the wines with a breeze. And this Kit's Coty wind comes from nothing less than the Eurostar, which apparently shoots through right at the bottom of the vineyard on its way into the Channel Tunnel. But in the book, Oz is talking about Kit's Coty and how he went there with one of the estate managers at Chapel Down and said, wow, this must be the greatest plot in England, is that right? And the manager said, jump back in the Land Rover. And they drove a few hundred meters to another plot that's been planted up in the last few years but isn't yet producing wine. And he said, here's another plot. We think this might even exceed the quality of Kitts Coty. Get back in the car, drove another few hundred meters, landed up on another plot, a third plot. Again, might be even better than Kitts Coty. They've got it under growth at the minute, and they just haven't produced wines yet. So the thing about Chapel Down is they've got huge volume, but high quality volume to come online in the next few years. And the other thing that intrigued me as someone who loves finance and personal investing is that Chapel Down is a public limited company, so you can buy shares in it. I had a look at that, and they offer some amazing discounts and special offers for shareholders. So I put some of my ISA to work in January this year and became a shareholder, and this is what I really want to show you today. As a shareholder, I have taken possession of 3 fine bottles of this limited release cuvee. In fact, it's the finest wine that they have at Chapel Down at the minute, and it's the Kitts Coty Coeur de Cuvée, and this is the 2015 vintage. I'll show you the bottle, and there it is. The Kitts Coty Coeur de Cuvée. Now, the amazing thing about this wine is its price. It's £100 a bottle, and now many of you will know that £100 will buy you some of the finest French champagne, never mind English sparkling wine. And frankly, for me, that's too expensive. I've spent, I think, maybe £80 on a bottle of very old Paul Roger, 2000, 2004, and it's been worth every penny. But to spend another 20%, 25% on an English sparkler that's 5 years old, that raises the eyebrows. But thankfully, becoming a shareholder takes that away, because you get 33% off as a shareholder on all of their English sparkling wines. So that takes it down to a still expensive, but much more reasonable 65, 67 quid, whatever it was. So I've picked up 3 of these, and I'm going to lay them down for a while. Why is it so expensive? Why is it so special? Well, these grapes, the grapes used to make this, are the finest grapes in the center of the Kitts Coty plot. So they picked literally the finest vines in that 100-acre plot, and it's the first gentle press, where they press the grapes very lightly so that limited amount of the juice comes out, and it's the finest quality juice in the press that comes out. And so it's those few grapes from that first press of the Kitts Coty vineyard that is used to make the Coeur de Cuvée. It's known to be a very spectacular and special wine for its crispness, its smoothness, its incredible clarity of structure and taste. I haven't tasted, but you can be sure that when I do, you'll see it as well. And I'm just going to put these in the cellar and let them lay here for a while. I might try one early, just because I'm so intrigued, and then leave the other 2. And I think what that'll do is help me to decide, am I in this for the long term? Am I going to stay a shareholder and lock up my capital there and continue to get that discount and maybe build up a series of vertical vintages of this? Or is it really not all it's cracked up to be, and we should be going for something much more reasonable in the high 30s and go for this one? This is the Blanc de Blanc, also 2015, also Kitts Coty, and it's much cheaper. I forget the exact price, but somewhere between 35 and 45 pounds a bottle. And maybe it'd be interesting to taste these alongside each other and see, is this one down here really worth twice this one? As I say, if I find out, you'll find out with me. But I hope you enjoyed that. Another little insight, this time into English sparkling wine. No tasting, but isn't it exciting to be able to grab something, put it away in the cellar, something that feels special, feels limited. And in fact, there are only 1,000 bottles of this wine produced, so it really is limited. And we've got 3 of them here in the cellar. Thanks.